The U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris is in the Vietnamese capital of Hanoi as she continues her trip to Southeast Asia. On Tuesday, her arrival from Singapore was delayed by several hours by what the U.S. Embassy in Hanoi called an anomalous health incident. For more on that, we go live to Zhou Yang in Hanoi. Zhou Yang, hello there. First of all, tell us about this health incident and what's on the agenda for Harris in Hanoi.
Well, Dongning, first of all, I will share a story with you. For Harris' trip, there was disharmony news which happened on Tuesday. Harris departed from Singapore more than 3 hours late. And the State Department of the U.S. said a concern about an enormous health incident in Hanoi, and the U.S. Embassy in Vietnam made a statement that earlier this morning, the Vice President's traveling delegation was delayed from depart Singapore because the Vice President's office was made aware of a report of a recent possible anomalous health incident in Hanoi, Vietnam. After careful assessment, the decision was made to continue with the Vice President's trip. So that's what I got on the website of the U.S. Embassy in Vietnam. And by the way, according to the Harris plan, and she will attend the opening in Hanoi, the opening ceremony in Hanoi of an office of the U.S. CDC, and meeting with the leaders of Vietnam, and also she will have a video conference with ASEAN countries' leaders. So that's what Harris will do on his plan list in Hanoi today.
Right, and the U.S. has been Vietnam's largest donor of vaccines, sending 5 million doses of Moderna short. Would you please tell us more about their COVID cooperation?
Well, Vietnam has been praised, as we all know, has been praised at keeping its COVID-19 cases largely under control through most of the pandemic. But the fast spread recent months of the Delta variant of the coronavirus has been caused the country's worst outbreaks by far, and another 10,811 cases were added to Vietnam's domestic COVID-19 count Tuesday. For almost 3 months now, Ho Chi Minh City has been the epicenter of Vietnam's fourth coronavirus wave, which emerged 4 months ago. And for the latest news, Phan Văn Mai was elected as the new chairman of Ho Chi Minh City's People's Committee Tuesday morning. And the new chairman said, though fighting the pandemic remains the top priority, and Ho Chi Minh City will draw a roadmap to gradually reopen its economy. So that is all about the pandemic of Vietnam for the recent days. Dongning, back to you.
Thank you very much, Zhou Yang, reporting from Hanoi in Vietnam. And U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris was in Singapore before heading to Vietnam. Our correspondent Miro Lu has the details.
The Singapore leg of U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris' Southeast Asian tour concluded on Tuesday. VP Harris' maiden trip to the region was intended to reinforce the Biden administration's message that America is back, but she had to contend with the aftershocks of events in Afghanistan. Acknowledging that the world's attention is on the Middle Eastern country, Ms. Harris began her Indo-Pacific policy speech on Tuesday morning by reiterating the U.S. is currently laser-focused on evacuating Americans and Afghans who helped America. After addressing the elephant in the room, Ms. Harris swiftly moved on to her key message, that she is here to reaffirm America's commitment to Southeast Asia and to the Indo-Pacific. What political experts found commendable was the fact that Ms. Harris showed up despite the situation in Afghanistan. Ms. Harris said that the partners and allies in the region are a top priority for the United States, and the Indo-Pacific is critical to America's security. A key takeaway from the visit is that the U.S. Vice President refrained from focusing on the U.S.-China geopolitical competition, being mentioned only once in the speech as part of the session on the South China Sea. Instead, Ms. Harris emphasized on tangibles and deliverables, with the U.S. and Singapore signing multiple agreements on cybersecurity, climate change, and public health control. Experts also said that while the visit is a good start by the Biden administration, more such actions will be needed in the future to substantiate the commitments voiced during the trip. Attention now shifts to Vietnam for the last leg of Ms. Harris' Southeast Asia trip, where she will make history as the first sitting U.S. vice president to visit the country.
And Kamala Harris is facing criticism for her visit to Vietnam. There have been ongoing comparisons of America's chaotic withdrawal from the country in 1975 to the unfolding crisis in Afghanistan. CGTN's Timothy Warwick reports.
Saigon, April the 30th, 8 o'clock. The last American helicopter on the roof of the American embassy prepares to lift off the last of the evacuees fleeing before the advancing communist armies.
The U.S. military almost half a century ago packed up and fled their posts in Vietnam. Pictures of helicopters in Kabul over the past few days, taxiing personnel and cargo from the embassy, is many, drawing comparisons. Secretary of State Antony Blinken rejects that.
Let's take a step back. This is manifestly not Saigon.
American officials have long been working to distinguish Kabul and Saigon. President Joe Biden did so last month when asked about it by reporters.
The Taliban is not the North Vietnamese army. They're not remotely comparable in terms of capability. There's going to be no circumstance where you see people being lifted off the roof of an embassy of the United States from Afghanistan. It is not at all comparable.
Washington was caught off guard by enemy advances in Vietnam and Afghanistan. American officials predicted it would take up to a year for Taliban forces to take power. Officials are confounded by the Taliban's advances.
I did expect some increased Taliban hold on territories that they were surrounding but had not yet captured. But the speed with which and the amount of territory that they have acquired is unexpected.
The discarded equipment even ran to tanks, some damaged, but some also abandoned intact by their crews as they fled before the communists.
The Americans left behind military equipment and weapons in their hurried exit from Saigon. Much the same story in Afghanistan, with the Taliban even going so far as to claim they are in possession of these American-made military helicopters. The group has been quick to show off their new equipment as well, such as this Humvee seen driven around the provincial capital Kandahar after it came under Taliban control. Whether this is the next fall of Saigon will become more apparent as the Taliban forms government and foreign forces flee. Timothy Ulrich, CGTN.
And for more analysis on this, I'm joined by Mr. Rong Ying, Vice President of the China Institute of International Studies in Beijing. Mr. Rong, welcome to Global Watch. Well, first of all, Kamala said in Singapore that U.S. would invest our time and our energy in strengthening relationships, quote unquote. What more could or would U.S. do in that regard? And what focuses will they put their efforts in?
Well, of course, I think during this visit, we have to, look at in a broader context. Over the past few months, we have seen sort of a series of high-level interactions, visits from the United States, the Secretary of Defense, Deputy Secretary of State, and also meetings with the Foreign Minister and the Secretary of State. And so this is a kind of efforts by the United States to ensure that it wants to assure the region that is committed to that, and they want to do something for the region. And so that's why when you look at the agenda, I think it's tried to put in a positive way, in the sense that the United States would try to help the region in terms of managing or addressing the issues like the fighting the COVID-19, like the managing the fallout of climate changes, and also the cybersecurity issues, and also, of course, the so-called resilience of global supply chains. And but the fact that I think so far from the responses And also of the region as a whole, I took a notice, at least I think there are 2 points worth following. One is it seems that the region as a whole, in particular, I think the Singapore and to some extent Vietnam, they are not very much convinced about the US, what the U.S. said. And more importantly, I think this visit took place in the context of the U.S. Sort of debacle in Afghanistan. So I think it's raised a lot of interesting and issues to follow, to watch.
So I think because she's now making the trip as the U.S. with chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan is making headlines. So maybe it's U.S. allies all have a big question mark in their minds. Are you reliable enough? For instance, its ally Japan. Some Japanese politicians argued they could not fully trust in America's promise to back them up in the conflict. Do you think the U.S. allies in Southeast Asia would have the same question?
Yeah, it's not exactly I think the problems this visit Vice President Harris was facing, as we have seen that she's been repeatedly asked by the question about the fallouts of the what is happening in Afghanistan. I think what happened in Afghanistan not only, I think, overshadowed the visit, but more importantly raised the big question, as you rightly said, the reliabilities and the credibilities of the United States. For me, I think it all raised the question of the capability of the United States, even though it wanted to fulfill the pledges and the commitment. And this is, I think, the big question I think facing the United States. And more importantly, I think the region, the countries in the region know very well that what they should take, as they have, what kind of position they have to take, as they have made, I think, openly and publicly raising their questions in the face of the United States during the visit.
All right, thank you very much indeed, Mr. Rong Ying, Vice President of the China Institute of International Studies.